happening. You're trying to figure out ultimately what is.
It's still a mystery as to why it took them. Wow, I guess it would help if I added us to the screen, wouldn't it? Ooh, one of those mornings. Good morning, Jarrett Ferrantino. I'm Lauren Conlon, everyone. Good to see you.
Good morning, Lauren. Good morning, everyone. There's a spot on my desk that is like taped because I hit it with my foot all the time, so I don't need everybody to see that.
Oh, I didn't even notice. I did not.
It's still there. All right,
well,
good.
As everyone knows, right now there is the last hearing for Karen Read. It's going on. I thought it was going to start at right at 10, but it turns out it kind of started closer to 10:45. So it's still going on right now. If anyone is interested, or if anybody is going back and forth and you hear something interesting, I'm happy to put it on the screen and talk about it. So just let me know. I was watching. It was a little standard, a little boring. Jarrett, what did you think so far?
Well, this is the fine tuning on the eve of trial. Oftentimes when you have so many pretrial motions going back and forth, not to say that those motions aren't important, but the less significant ones tend to wait right up until the eve of trial, or some of them are such that you have to wait till everything else is out of the way until they become ripe to be disposed of. So what's being argued right now is basically the qualifications on the dog bite and the expert there, a lot of which it's good they have these fights now, because it's not a fight you want to have in front of the jury or to put the jury out while these fights are being had. You don't want the jury to feel like the prosecution or the defense are hiding anything from them. So this is probably going to be a lengthy hearing. And those are some of the motions I heard. And then there was like a stipulation on a chemist that they just talked about. But really, it's just everybody's going through this list of motions that the judge hasn't ruled on. And I've always been surprised in those hearings. I'm like, oh, God, I forgot about that one. Or I can't believe we didn't get a ruling on. No one is typically surprised at these proceedings, though. Even Brennan, he's asking to reconsider motions. He's doing that and he's making argument, but he knows the judge is not typically going to overrule herself.
Right. I mean, I was surprised. I was like half listening for a second, and I'm like, am I hearing still that we're talking about dog bite experts? And
that one seems to be the biggest one of the morning. So we're talking about whether or not, here's the question, not whether or not they were dog bites, whether or not an expert can say the bites came from Chloe, or the prosecutions can say definitively they did not come from Chloe. Here's the problem and the danger the prosecution runs into. Are you acknowledging they're dog bites at that point? I mean, the fight is they're not dog bites. Like, I'd be like, you're crazy. I don't care what dog it is. It ain't a dog. Like, it ain't Chloe. It's not a canine to begin with. It's glass from the glass.
So, like, Jarrett, if you're a prosecutor here, and let's say you're sticking with it, these aren't dog bites, how is it that you can't sit there as a prosecutor and be like, I refuse to do this because they aren't? Like, how does that come into play?
I don't know. I don't know what Brennan was talking about just now. I was a little concerned. He's talking about excluding the fact that the bites came, the ability to say, if an expert can say they're dog bites, he has an expert that will exclude Chloe.
Yeah.
The dog that the Alberts had inside that house. But that puts O'Keefe in the house. So I don't know. Look, Brendan's a good prosecutor. He's a very good lawyer. I just caught a snippet of that. I'm like, why are we even having this conversation? I wouldn't even entertain that.
Well, but they are. So that's really interesting. I mean, I find that, wow. I didn't pick up on that right away, but I love it. I am so here for that. I mean, I can add let me add the hearing right now just to see what's going on, if we're missing anything interesting. I think, I had it paused. Oh no, I had it. There we go. I don't know why
They would be required to testify pursuant to the February 12th, 2024 report. and they would not be able to provide any further opinions, any further
MJ, you're
ideas,
funny.
or any further reports. So the two things, to simplify it, that I'm looking for is for the court to have that voir dire, again, for a limited purpose.
And what was this? I missed that.
To-
Does anyone know who's paying
It
attention?
looks like Brennan is trying to limit the ability of certain
Proposed.
defense experts to go
And
beyond their
to
reports
have
or to
ARCA
limit the
limited
conclusions
to
they're able to make.
the
He's saying, Judge, can
discovery
I
that
voir
was
dire an
properly
expert
provided
in this
before the
fashion? Again,
discovery deadline.
he's fine tuning that process. So this stuff
Okay.
isn't very exciting, but at the same time,
Yeah.
it helps lay a roadmap for the trial because look, the more of this you can get out of the way right now, you can plan for in your strategy, you can plan for in your opening, and it saves you the need to have to keep approaching or excusing the jury. So it's important you get all this minutia out of the way.
But what was he wanting a voir dire for? That's what I missed.
I don't know. It sounds like a particular expert. I'm just not sure which one.
Okay, got it. I'll go back.
Those are my three requests.
Jackson's beard. Maybe shave that for the trial. I don't know.
I want to go in reverse order briefly, if I could, concerning the
We're not doing beards anymore.
discovery
Remember?
deadlines. We
You didn't
have
get the memo.
continued to receive new notices of discovery from the Commonwealth
Oh.
well after
Oh.
the same deadlines that Mr. Brennan is now bringing up concerning ARCA. They filed their
Oh.
notice of completion or certificate of completion long ago, and we have consistently received new information from their experts, new reports, amended reports, redacted reports, additional information.
All right. So if we
Both
could,
sides
Lauren,
understand.
let's talk
Yeah.
about what he's
Discovery is
saying. He's
ongoing.
saying,
Yeah. Let's hold on.
that-
Maybe pause this.
Sometimes out of our control.
Okay.
okay, so there are discovery deadlines set in every case. And in a
Mhm.
criminal case, that deadline is long past at this point. Okay. And he's saying we're getting discovery materials or notices that there's materials to be picked up at the prosecutor's office. Now,
Okay.
that happens in these cases. As you're preparing for trial, you're interviewing witnesses, they're providing you with documentation. Things come up in trial preparation that have to be turned over. So what he just said there is he's kind of complaining that ARCA, for example, ARCA, he's saying there's information that's having to be exchanged between the parties. Their report has long been finished and provided. Why is this happening now? I'll tell you why it's happening now, because there are pretrial meetings that happen right before you put these folks on the stand where new information may be discovered or a statement is made that has to be turned over, because if you don't turn it over, it's unfair surprise, objectionable, and then excluded. So that's what they're talking about. Every case with, every case of this size and much smaller has this issue. And every defense attorney has this complaint on the eve of trial that we're still getting discovery. It's BS, it's frustrating. We can't prepare, but it's also fairly typical. The judge is not necessarily going to have an issue unless they can show there was some deliberate attempt to not provide this timely or that they had it before.
Okay. And Karen, I agree with what you said. He does seem a bit subdued today, Alan Jackson.
To that point, on March 26,
saving it for the jury.
2025, we received for the first time official notice from the United States Attorney's Office and the Department of Justice that we, the defense, or either side, the Commonwealth as well, were free to engage ARCA directly as expert witnesses in this case. On that same day, we contacted the Commonwealth. Actually, the very next day, we contacted the Commonwealth and provided them information that we would be and had engaged them. We've provided the engagement agreement. We've provided them with all discovery that we have appropriate there too. And insofar as, or to the extent that any additional testing and or analysis is completed by those experts, because keep in mind, it's only been, we can count it in days that we've actually been able to engage them. If there is in fact additional testing and or analysis that is noteworthy, then we will, or that we intend to use, we will obviously provide that to the Commonwealth forthwith, which we indicated in our moving papers. We will maintain that posture throughout. And if there is additional information to be disclosed, it will be disclosed. It will be disclosed in a timely manner. We do not have anything as yet as we stand here today, but we.
So again, more to the point of what I said, they are constrained about when they were able to contact ARCA. So he's basically saying that it's not our fault if our meetings with them lead to additional analysis or data that we ask them to do, we're going to turn that over to the prosecution. And I think that it's fair game because they were unable to contact them because of how ARCA came into this through the federal investigation and kind of through the back door of this case. So I think the judge will allow that as so long as, and I can't imagine it's going to change what ARCA has said. So that's, again, a lot of what you're going to see leading up to the actual beginning of trial. It's Easter week. They put it off till next week. It's Patriots Day on Monday. So everything kicks off on Tuesday. It's going to be a busy weekend for everybody, though.
Yeah, I'm so annoyed because I'm pretty sure that's when the Harvey Weinstein trial is going to kick off as well. So I'm like, this is going to be a lot to juggle. Let me just quickly see if he says anything else that's
same day.
Worth it.
If I get a report, I will turn it over the same day. If I get a new analysis, I will turn it over the same day. If we get new testing results, we will turn those over the same day that we get them. In other words, I can't control the conduct of the experts. They may or may not be engaging in additional testing or analysis. But if they are, once I get it, we'll turn it over.
I mean, it's been a long jury selection, and that's a boring process. And while you're in court all day picking a jury, you're prepping for the trial at night. So these are long days, and I can't imagine Jackson sleeping well either. I mean, this is a lot of pressure and all leading to this. This is the round two that's been hanging over their heads for a long time. Jury selection has carried on a lot longer than maybe they expected. Not than I expected. I thought it was going to go that way. And it's an exhausting process. Hopefully, he gets a run in or a couple of workouts in and finds some relaxation over the weekend. But look, I mean, they're people too. They're people. He's away from his home. That gets old too after a while.
Yeah, definitely. I guess I haven't seen him kind of this calm in a while.
Hiding anything, as soon as we get something, if we get it, to the extent that there is additional analysis or
so he's basically saying the same thing, Lauren. He's basically just saying, I'll turn it over when I get it. I don't think there's a major issue there, but and the other thing is he's saving his energy for the later rounds in the coming trial here. It's going to be a long trial. And again, like I said, what people may not realize is you're in court all day and then you leave court, maybe get a workout in, maybe get some food, and then go right back to prepping for the next day. And, your witnesses that are coming up, which is why you have multiple lawyers working on these things.
Yeah. And just to go over really quickly, the jury selection and how that all turned out, as of yesterday, many of you are aware that they were able to seat 9 men and 9 women, and they interviewed about 591 candidates, and this was over the course of 10 days. And I saw this stat. So it said you've got 591, 18 jurors selected. That means approximately 3.05 of the potential jurors are being seated, and that's more selective than Harvard College, who accepted 3.59 of applicants to its 2028 class, which I thought was very funny. So, this was a very selective process, and it sounds like Karen Reed is happy. The Commonwealth is happy. Everybody's happy after they came out of court yesterday talking to the media. I mean, that's all we got, right?
Right. And I don't think I watched her comments, her latest comments about being excited and happy with what the jury looks like. I don't think that should be allowed. I don't think any statements about your position on the jury. She said they told the truth in there. Like, she's commenting on the credibility of the jury at this point. Like, stop. Just be like, we're ready. We're going. Like, let's not like kiss everybody's ass in the room. Like, that's so inappropriate. It's beyond the pale. Like, I'm going to be honest. Have you ever seen a defendant conducting these kinds of statements outside of the courtroom? She was asked on her way out the door, hey, Karen, they're going to use your interview from the documentary. And what did she say?
She said, come at me.
Come at me. Yeah.
Come at me or something. Or come for me, come at me. Well, personally, I think because her lawyers have a gag order, she is trying to be the mouthpiece here. And maybe she just feels like she has to.
But she does too. She has a gag order. She's bound by the gag order too. I mean, like, I don't get that. I don't get how she's allowed to do that. It's not great. Then again, President Trump has set up a new standard for, he would be the exception. He would hold those press conferences on that like depressing hallway area when he was on trial in New York and he was going at the judge. So look, I think we're in a new day. 2025 is, we're turning a lot of that on its head. So we'll see how it fares for her. When she says, come at me with my statements, that's great. How about the one where you said, did I hit him and all the other stuff?
Well, oh God. See, I feel like that's the least of her. That came out trial one. I feel like okay. I'm just nervous that she will be boxed into this corner where she may have to take the stand because Brennan is going to use all of these different statements. And listen, I don't think she should take the stand because everything that we've seen her in interviews, the consensus is she's not super likable. And so I don't think she should go in front of a jury and try to clear up anything that she said in any of the documentaries or any of the Datelines or Nightlines or whatever else. I think that, her lawyers should just work their magic there and how they can try to, I guess, diffuse some of the things that she said that might seem to not necessarily sit well with jurors or might confuse them.
Yeah, it's not going to get better with her on this, I don't think. I think you can do this case without her. You can punch the holes in reasonable doubt. You can do all that without putting her on the stand. And I don't think those things do too much damage to her. They're not great, but they're not earth-shattering. They're not confessions. So I think she'll be okay.
No, and you made a really good point, and I think I brought this up. I don't remember when, but you were just like, when I saw the ID documentary, it didn't change my mind or sway me in one way or the other, with her guilt or innocence. It's just,
it didn't.
Why talk so much?
Right. And again, that appears to be her nature. She's a fighter. I mean, just read the texts from that night. She's a fighter, I mean, that's Karen Reed. One thing, you cannot make defendants be who they're not. When a trial's this long, your personality is going to somehow be revealed, especially when you have these answers and these interviews and the answers to certain questions about that night that are going to be played. I think that the documentaries fairly represented who Karen Reed was. Even the stuff of which, even when she was in her home, even when she was in more casual clothing, she never comes across as anything other than this feisty, tough, not a real warm person. And that's not a judgment on her. She just comes across that way. That's just, although when it comes to her dad, she appears to be very loving with her dad.
And her mom, I noticed. I think, her mom too.
I think that, that revealed a very human side to her that I didn't necessarily see in her interactions with John O'Keefe. And it's hard to glean where she was with John's kids, his niece and nephew that he was raising. In one sense, it sounded like John was complaining that Karen was spoiling them. In another sense, it sounded like she was complaining that they have to deal with all this stuff. So I don't know. It's hard. I could be misreading it.
See, I think that's tough because she loved those kids by all accounts. She she took care of them because John was at work during the pandemic. Oh, hey, Dizzy, good to see you. John was at work. He didn't like if she would get them fast food. You know, I'm sure Karen Reed was the one setting up their Zoom for school because he couldn't be there. And Jarrett, you know how it is. You've been around moms. We love our children, but imagine that, you know, they're not exactly your children, and your life all of a sudden goes from being a single person, and now we have a pandemic, and now we have a woman whose life revolves around these kids. So as much as I do feel that she loved them, I think it's incredibly normal for a mom or a mother figure to complain about their kids being up their ass.
That was a unique, that was a ready-made family. That was a unique situation that John found himself in, and a noble one. And I think they were doing their best. But anyway, I think that this trial is going to play out a lot like the first one, over the presentation, because you can't run from what's already of record.
Yeah.
The major change in this trial is Brennan. Brennan is the major change. Let's see how he handles, you know, I would say the difficulty he's been handed. He does not get a fresh start. He has to deal and wrestle with trial number one and what witnesses said in trial number one. He cannot really change that. The only thing he can do is bring a better expert on the accident, but he's stuck with Trooper Paul initially. So those are the kind of things that we'll be looking for.
Yeah. And I think, I also think Trooper Proctor, that is going to be really interesting. The questioning of Trooper Proctor by the Commonwealth, and then the cross-examination by the defense. I am very excited, and maybe that's not the right word, but I just know Alan Jackson is going to really hammer that. He is going to make that a very memorable day for the jury, in my opinion.
Well, it certainly was. It certainly was in the first trial, and the prosecution would be ill-advised to try to run from Proctor, though. I think you have to kind of jump on that bomb and play around it. But we'll
definitely see. Yeah. And I also think it's going to be interesting that we have journalists on the witness list too. You know, we saw Turtle Boy, but really we saw Gretchen Voss, who first from Boston Magazine, who had to turn over all of her notes with that whole thing. That's very Menendez-y, Menendez Brothers like. But I think all of this stuff is going to be really, really different, I guess.
Well, and I've done that before. I've had to call, as I've said, I've had journalists on the witness stand. What happens, and you would know, you're involved in cases, you become involved. You conduct interviews. You have offline conversations with parties involved, sometimes the defendant. When that happens, you run the risk of being a person with personal knowledge of the facts underlying the crime. So Turtle Boy, although he's, trying to report on this, and he's certainly Team Karen, no doubt. Nobody's disputing that.
Oh, he is? Oh, I had no idea.
He has inadvertently, or maybe on purpose, injected himself to a degree that he's a legitimate subject to call witness. Now he's filed a motion through his lawyers to get in over the sequestration order. And for those of you, our people are well informed. Sequestration is basically, if you're going to testify at a case, I know you know what it means for jurors, but for witnesses, it's like you got to sit outside. You cannot watch these proceedings. So your testimony is in no way influenced by the other witnesses. So Turtle Boy, by virtue of being on the Commonwealth or the Commonwealth's witness list, is subject to a sequestration order. His attorneys have filed a motion to get him in over that. So, and I don't know that that's been resolved yet.
No, I don't think so. I am not certain. But I have to I get all the filings emailed to me, but there's a lot of filings during the day. So I'll have to look into that later and get all caught up.
But you're balancing First Amendment rights of Turtle Boy and journalists. I mean, it goes a little beyond him versus the right of the Commonwealth to protect the record and its witnesses from unfair bias or unfair information. So that's quite a balancing act,
Right.
Ultimately, though, there's a good chance he's going to be kept out.
We'll see. I think they just took a break from what I can see on court TV. Yeah, I think a break is in order. Maybe they all seem to be getting up off the table. So I think for now, we can move on.
Is the ceiling fan up on the screen?
The ceiling fan was before. It was so annoying. Oh my goodness. But we should talk about this, Jarrett. This is something that really shocked me and really it's been stressing me out this entire week. It's hard for me to even put this into words, I guess, just everything that's happened with Angie Solomon, and maybe some people in the chat aren't aware, but I had never covered any type of crime story, any type of criminal case, trial, etc. Nothing like that until I jumped on the story of Grant Solomon, or the mysterious death of Grant Solomon. And then, as many of you know, it's a very layered story. Tumultuous divorce with Angie Solomon, Aaron Solomon. There is Gracie Solomon, Grant's little sister. Gracie Solomon made this YouTube video that, gosh, I think it has close to 1 million views at this point, after she felt like nobody was listening to her and nobody was helping her. And I think she was 14 at the time. And she just said, look, I mean, I'll put allegedly, my father is abusing me. And she had her suspicions about her dad and the way that her brother died. And her brother died in 2020 in a parking lot in Gallatin, Tennessee. His car rolled down this ditch, trapped him underneath somehow, and he subsequently died. In my opinion, in many opinions, the police investigation wasn't great based on what we saw in these reports. And then you have lots of alleged gaslighting at these schools where Gracie went. She was talking about being allegedly abused, and the faculty basically called her in and tried to shut her up instead of getting her the help she needs. And this is all on different recordings and whatnot. But there's more to the story. When I first started this again, I was very green. I even have like a little disclaimer before my podcast. It's called Corruption: What Happened to Grant Solomon. And I learned a lot. And I did get very close to Angie and Gracie. And like I said, I'm so concerned for Gracie right now. She is like a huge concern. But I think one thing I learned is that you shouldn't get that close, because then you start to just put blinders on. And so it's been tough for me to report on this, especially the more that I'm seeing other certain nuances and so I'll leave it at that. But I was actually driving back from the Hamptons Whodunit, and my phone started ringing, and I'm like, what's happening? It's like monsooning out. I've got to go 3 hours away, or 2 hours back to the city. And I see this, and I was gutted. I was like, what the hell? And immediately I thought, Jarrett, like, this woman finally snapped. Like, she's had it. She has had it, because she has been begging people to help. And she felt like she was being ignored. She was knocking on the school, the church, the DA, the police. She just felt like she was being ignored. And finally, that's what I thought about.
So what's happened is that Angie was arrested for conspiring with what was an undercover police officer to kill her ex-husband. She gave him title to her vehicle as payment and the promise of more money to come. She gave him information. First of all, these things always happen in a parking lot, which is crazy. It's always like they meet in a parking lot. They give this, if you're meeting someone to kill your ex-spouse in a parking lot and giving them details, chances are that person is an undercover cop. But anyway, what happened is, whether Angie snapped or not, or had snapped a long time ago, and see, the theory of the prosecution is this is about money. This is about a trust fund that she wants to get access to. The civil filings in family court continue, and actually we're going on up to and including the time of this act of trying to kill her ex-husband. So here's the other thing.
Well,
So you
guess
have
what? I
Aaron.
think you just broke that news because I haven't said that just yet, which is fine. But yeah, so they were back in family court. And I want to just make a note, and I haven't refreshed everybody on this, and I did another episode of corruption the other day just to get this out there. But if you listened and you followed the case, Angie was barred by Judge Deanna Johnson in 2019 of filing anything against Aaron for 6 years. So now we're in 2025. It's been 6 years. And I did learn.
So what I'm able to, without getting too deep into some
Yeah,
of these domestic situations, is there continues to be a fight over monies here. Okay. There's contempt allegations flying back and forth, which could put a party in jail to begin with. So that's where, I mean, the temperature is way up again. There's court proceedings coming up. Now you have this arrest for Angie, allegedly conspiring to kill Aaron, which carries with it 8 to 30 years. So she's looking at.
I thought it was 8 to 12.
No, it's 8 to 30 under that section. So there are aggravators.
Oh, no.
If you look, so a sentencing range, at least up to my research, is 8 to 30, not likely to be 30, but for the key here is it was to commit first-degree murder. She took affirmative steps. She made payment. She identified the victim.
Does that count? That's a question I had.
Yes. Okay. So giving the title to the vehicle is a thing of
amazing.
value. These are aggravators that it's not something she said on a whim. She took a substantial step and actually, like at that point in Angie's mind, she did everything she needed to do, allegedly, to set the murder of Aaron in motion. That's what she's arrested for. So the law looks at two things: guilty mind, guilty act. Guilty mind in a solicitation for murder is you want this murder to happen. Guilty act is either the murder gets carried out or your role is basically payment is made. You know, the horse has left the barn. And in Angie's mind, she left that meeting thinking, I have set things in motion to kill Aaron. That's the claim. And she will likely, if convicted, spend over a decade, if not 2 decades.
Oh my God. Sorry. And like, this is the thing. I'm sick to my stomach over this. Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, it's no joke. And it's class, like I'm telling you, Lauren, that's a bad 8 is the beginning for that charge.
I guess I'm speechless right now. I mean, so I have a couple questions. So what you're saying is just because you don't hand someone a wad of cash in a parking lot and you say, here, I'm going to give you this as collateral still means payment. That means payment. And that is the same thing as money.
In looking at the acts she's taken. So she giving that title is a substantial step toward carrying out the murder. It's a thing of value. It's collateral, but here's the thing. She's so committed to this thing that she's conferred a benefit on the would-be killer. That's a problem. That's a substantial step toward the murder. Like, I've had solicitations for murder. We had a guy who solicited the murder of a serial killer I had, a witness in the case, and really didn't take that much of a substantial step, was ultimately convicted because the conversation was recorded. This conversation was very likely recorded too. So she's in a lot of trouble.
When you say likely, I mean, it has to be recorded, right? Like there's video or body cam, whatever, especially if it's an undercover sting. I mean, it has to be.
But it's not disclosed in the filing that it was. No. In Pennsylvania, because in Pennsylvania, if it was recorded, it will have to say in that filing, an intercept was made, and on the information that there is an audio or video of this that has to be turned over. So it's not noted. In Tennessee, it's clearly not required.
Yeah, Tennessee is Wild West, I guess. So I don't know how this happened. I've emailed the clerk's office probably quadruple times, and I have no issue with that. I'll just quadruple email. Many people know me. I'll quadruple text. I have no shame, no self-awareness. No, I'm just kidding. But I was under the impression that she was supposed to have a bail hearing. First, it was Monday. We know what happened. She went to court on Monday. She didn't have an attorney or a public defender, so they did appoint her a public defender, and she was supposed to come back Tuesday, but my source that was in the courtroom said she wasn't there on Tuesday. Erin Solomon was there. I don't know what went down, but all I know now is that her next court appearance is not until May 29th, so she will be in the Williamson County Jail until then. I mean, her bail again.
Well, now, not necessarily. Now, I'm familiar with the vehicle that there could be a motion filed for bail prior to that.
Okay.
Provided she can get in front of a judge in the meantime. So it's unlikely, but it's possible. And she'd go out on electronic monitoring or something like that. So again, her current bond is $500,000. So the first request is lower that, which they may or may not. You can get bond set for that. And then two, it would be, you can go to a criminal motions judge or something like that. And these are the terms we use here in Pennsylvania, but they're we didn't invent them here. There are vehicles to get yourself in front of a judge for a bail hearing prior, because that's not a bail hearing on the 29th.
No, it says a hearing. Yeah, like a pre-trial hearing, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so she could, well, it would be like the equivalent of a preliminary hearing. But she could technically get herself in front of a judge for a bail hearing prior to that. I would imagine they have that vehicle in Tennessee.
Okay, so there's a chance that maybe her public defender could set something up with this judge, and this judge is Judge Denise Andre, a woman. I've heard from, again, a couple local sources that she has a reputation of being pretty fair, but I think about this, and again, it's heartbreaking. And if you see some of the comments online, many people are saying it was a setup. She was set up, this and that. And I mean, my response to that, right, is if it was some kind of entrapment or coercion or some kind of deceit, I mean, that is going to come out in court, how this all went about, how this transpired. And then, and correct me, Jarrett, if I'm wrong, that will be up to Angie's defense attorney or public defender to break that down and say, actually, Your Honor, or actually this is entrapment because of X, Y, Z. And have you ever seen cases where somebody was, did this to an undercover officer and they were not convicted because the defense attorney argued entrapment?
There was the federal case, I think it was Governor Gretchen Whitmer's case, where some of the would-be kidnappers claimed entrapment by some of the undercover officers. And forgive me, I don't know. I believe it created an issue for the prosecution. But here's the thing about entrapment. So there's a federal case out there, and I don't know that it was Gretchen Whitmer's. It may have been hers, where there was an undercover agent who enticed someone to say they were going to kill somebody or bomb something. And it turned out this was somebody of very, very little means mentally. That's different. You have a tough hill to climb to say Angie Solomon was entrapped. Here's why. Because entrapment is something you are unlikely to do on your own, but for the propositioning or being pushed by this third party, okay? It's hard to be entrapped to give title to your vehicle to kill your ex-husband and be on record in doing that. It's an intentional act. It's quite deliberate. She is of sound mind. People are entrapped to do all kinds of things, like, here's a bag of $1 million, take it, okay? That's a little different than the situation Angie Solomon saw. She met with this person at a prearranged location. She discussed payment. She discussed payment after the fact. She provided information. You're going to have a tough time saying that she was entrapped. Now, was it a setup? Is the corruption so deep there that the police are saying, here's how we're finally going to shut her up? We're going to get her on the record to agree that she wants to kill Aaron. That's not entrapment. That's a criminal allegation against the investigators and the police, basically.
Well, and
Entrapment-
I've
entrapment
heard
won't carry
that.
the day.
And I've heard that. And look, I don't think I helped much in deterring people from actually, I don't think I said too much about the Franklin Police Department. I think I was more concerned with the Gallatin Police Department and Grant's death and all of that. But what I will say about this is, you said Angie is of sound mind. And this is what's been interesting and kind of eating at me here, Jarrett, is Aaron had always said, Angie's crazy. She's crazy. She's this, she's that. And that's why she had gotten her kids taken away at one point. They said she was suicidal, all this stuff. And, she came to court with her experts, her doctors who had notes, saying, nope, she's of sound mind. She's this and that. And she also was recently, she was recently working as a pharmacist. She was holding down a job, whatever. But this woman has been through it. Like, she's been through a lot. She might as well have like the scarlet letter, okay, on her forehead here, not, for whatever, just, what I'm saying, right? Like
right. Not for salacious reasons, for people.
Yes. Thank you.
Right.
Not for salacious reasons. Yes. But there's a possibility here that she's not of sound mind and she snapped after all this because of just feeling like she, and so what I think is going to be tough is like, you spend all this time saying, I'm not crazy, which sure, at that time, maybe she wasn't, but now wouldn't that be a really solid defense to lean on? Like, after all this, after everything that I've been through with my son, with my daughter, I don't feel of sound mind. Wouldn't you want?
Here's where that information is going to best serve her. It's not going to negate the intent. This is solicitation to commit first-degree murder, a planned out murder. So when I say she's of sound mind, just by virtue of what was done here and what she's alleged to have done, is somebody who is in control of their actions and capable of committing intentional behaviors, meeting at a meeting place, identifying the victim, giving collateral, assurance of payment after the fact. Those are intentional acts of someone who is in control of their faculties. Now, when Aaron Solomon says Angie's crazy, like my ex-wife is crazy, he's saying, he's not making a medical determination she's crazy. He's saying she does things that are crazy. She's gone beyond that to negate what he's saying and has provided testimony and expert analysis to suggest she does not have that diagnosis. Not going to help her. Here's where it's going to come in. If she pleads guilty to this charge, that comes in for mitigation. The fact that she lost her son, the fact that she has a young daughter, the fact that she has endured this tremendous divorce, all of that is going to negate or mitigate a sentence that could be imposed upon her. And the judge would consider those things. But
so you
it's not
can't
going to
use
carry
that
the day
as
in
a
the underlying
defense,
case.
is what I mean. Like, that can't be part of her defense. Like,
She could if there's a diagnosis. I just don't see it. I see it as more mitigation in a plea. I don't see it as saying Angie's insane. I mean, it's such a tough burden. To be crazy, and again, in Pennsylvania, you either have to be hearing voices or believing you're compelled by the devil or God or something, or you are so crazy you have no idea that if I pay this person, I tell them to kill Aaron, this isn't going to happen. I believe I'm in a dream state, or I'm on another planet. That's not Angie Solomon.
Oh man, I really am just sick and just stressed over this. And like I said, I did step away from the podcast. I haven't spoken to Angie or Gracie in over a year, but I was always just cheering for them, from afar. I know, Gracie got a full ride to college. I was so happy. And I always think no news is good news. So I'm thinking things are going well in their world. And it's complicated. I should have checked in. I should have, but I have my reasons. I have, and maybe one day I can talk more candidly about that. But I just don't like this, Jarrett. I don't
Well,
like this
my,
at
my
all.
experience with moms in that situation, ironically enough, I'm writing a book on the subject of mothers and murder, but as defendants, as victims, as parents. But my experience is when someone in her position finds someone like you who's willing to listen to her, and I'm not suggesting you believed everything Angie told you, but lend her an ear, somebody that could articulate her concern, look into those concerns. They lean on you very heavily and learn to see themselves in, the fight you're taking up for them. So it's tough. It's a tough thing to be a part of, and look, losing a child, I've certainly fought on behalf of so many people who have been down that road. It changes you, and the system sometimes doesn't help.
I can't imagine it. And this is the perfect case example, Jarrett, of multiple things can be true at once. I mean, you have the allegations of abuse with Gracie and her father. And like just as an example, at one point, Aaron Solomon was substantiated as an abuser in the DCS records, but he appealed. And now he's no longer in the DCS records as an abuser. And, at the time it wasn't brought to my attention. And so I felt, I'm looking back and I'm like, man, I misreported that. And I don't like that for this whole case, because I feel like it takes away from some of the really serious things that I want to put on the forefront here. So
the only thing I'll say, though, Lauren, is I've seen this, and this is not a comment on the merits of Angie's position here, but I've seen many situations where you have a split and a spouse accuses another spouse of corruption, especially Aaron Solomon was a news anchor, so he was well known in that community, politically dialed in. You have the spouse of that person accuse them of abuse one way or another, on themselves, on their children. You have them accused that spouse of corruption through the court system. I've seen this play out 100 times, if not 1,000 times. That's not to say she's not right, but I know this story. And that's the hard part where, you're very quick to say, boy, you got to take that with a grain of salt. These claims have to be investigated. And now she's on her heels. I mean, she's now accused of trying to commit murder, which is of the father of her children, of her former husband. And
the sad part is it all is on paper. They're back and forth. They're ugly, it's awful. And the thing is, I believe Gracie. I believe her. I really do. I've spoken to her in detail. I mean, we did a lot of diligence when it came down to Gracie's allegations, right? And, other allegations that we may have uncovered, and people might not have been ready at the time to come forward, and that's fine. But I believe her. And this whole thing is heartbreaking, but it's insane, because I did not have this on my bingo card, But
this goes to show you how bad, look at Tiffany Adams. This goes to show you how bad these family domestic disputes can get. I mean, it's particularly through the courts. I mean, it's tough stuff. Let me tell you.
And I'm gutted. I thought it was 8 to 12 years, but
and we'll correct that. But right before we came on, I was trying to find it, and my review of it says 8 to 30. I'll look at it again. Okay. We'll correct that. But 8 to 30 sounds more correct with the first degree. So,
okay. And the last question, what is the difference between solicitation to commit murder and conspiring to commit murder?
So solicitation is an attempt to hire or to attempt to get somebody else to do it. A conspiracy, they're both pretty much related. You are engaged in carrying the act through. A conspiracy here, you don't necessarily have a conspiracy because it's an undercover cop. You can't conspire with an undercover cop. There's no meeting of the minds.
Right.
Her act was the actual solicitation of the murder. There's no co-conspirator that see, the law doesn't like when one person breaks the law. The law doesn't like when two people do it together. You don't have that when one of them is a co-conspirator. So if you buy drugs off of an undercover cop, you're not charged with conspiring with that undercover cop. You're charged with the distribution to that cop. So conspiracy is more akin to the Kansas Moms case between Tiffany, Paul, and Tad and everybody there. They're locked in an agreement to carry out a crime. You cannot have that with an undercover cop in this situation.
You're so smart. I love this.
I think that's the answer. My buddy Drew is a real law nerd, and he's still a prosecutor, kind of. And he always calls me out, like, technically, Jarrett. I'm like, oh, go get your own show. Go get your own show, Drew.
Okay, so Sal requested me to do the voice, but you just did it. Technically, Drew. Yeah, no, that was good. That was good. All right. Well, I will keep a close eye on this, everybody, and yeah, I'll keep you posted, Jarrett. Thank you for explaining all of this, and I'll be sure to send you more filings that I get so you can hopefully break them down. But let's go over, just for the last 10 minutes or so, the Menendez Brothers hearings. They are happening tomorrow in LA. Finally, they had a big win in court last Friday. I was very nervous.
Despite the DA's objection, right?
Oh yeah. Hold on, let me write this. I can't even spell resentencing. Let me sound that out.
Lori Vallow still defending herself real quick. And the best witness so far was her other brother, Adam, who said
when he forgot about her green chili enchiladas.
But he did say he talked with Charles and Charles said to him, they're planning something, which is like huge. So anyway, but let's get into Menendez.
No, yes, that was huge. What was it was obviously not Alex. What was the other brother's name?
Adam.
Okay. Yeah. I need to go back and play that because I've been a little distracted. So I need to catch up on Daybell. But yes, Menendez Brothers resentencing hearing. It is tomorrow. Let me pull up. I had an article. Let me share this really quick. I mean, I think it looks good for them. Don't you? If the judge is like, I'm going to move forward anyway.
Well, we've been saying there's two avenues of attack here in consideration for resentencing. Number one, their lives behind bars, which have been exemplary. I mean, I looked at those reports. They have been very, they've been living lives of model prisoners, model inmates. So in the California system, they're entitled to a reconsideration. The other thing is the Menudo letter, and from that particular piece of information, their cousin, all of those facts that go to a potential history of abuse with their dad supporting their position.
Oh, but that was thrown out. Don't you remember?
So none of that will be considered by the judge?
No, I mean, no, that was part of the habeas. The 2020.
Yeah, but I thought that was on the habeas for a retrial. It wasn't necessarily whether or not that could be considered.
Okay, so maybe you're right. I just know it was, they were like, no, sorry. The DA's office is like, that doesn't constitute, a new trial. None of this constitutes a new trial, but you could be right. It could be totally fine.
They may be able to put that forward to the judge, who's in a bit of a position to consider that. More weight than it. Well, I think that's going to happen. And again, I apologize. When the habeas is a different situation, that these guys had a habeas to reconsider their underlying trial because of that information. This is a resentencing hearing, so it may be fair game.
Yeah. Oh, look at them on Zoom. That was the sketch on Zoom. I wonder if they're going to be in person tomorrow. That would be really exciting. I mean, that's going to be like an iconic moment. Are you kidding me? The Menendez brothers back in court for the first time since like 1995.
Yeah, what? I don't know that they're going to be in person. I don't know what to expect, but I would think they are going to put as much in front of this judge to consider their situation as possible. And look, I have my thoughts on this case. Their actions afterwards really make it tough to see past their conduct. But at the same time, they've been in jail a long, long time. They were very young men when they did this. You know, I've had cases work out with more severe intentional conduct, and 30 years was the sentence. You know, so I don't know.
Wow.
To me, I think they've been appropriately sentenced.
Yeah,
At this point. If they get out, they get out. If they don't,
we've
I
talked
mean, I can
about
live with
this
it either way.
ad nauseum. You could see, I would be very upset if they don't get out after all this. And this is a quote. Where is this quote from the judge? It kind of made me laugh. He said, Judge Mike Jessic allowed the presentation to continue, but noted he'd like to wrap things up on Friday. This is last week. He said, I'm not going to stop your presentations. We're going to flesh it out. If it doesn't get finished today, I'm going to cry a little. I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, they hope to have everything wrapped up by, again, this Friday. So Thursday and Friday. I wish it was televised. My goodness, that would be so interesting to watch, but I guess we'll have to wait until after. And it doesn't say anything, about them coming in person. So I'm assuming it'll be Zoom, most likely.
Yeah, I think it'll be on Zoom.
Yeah. I mean, I think they have a really good chance here, Jarrett, of being released at this point, especially if the judge kind of, I don't want to say disregarded the DA's recommendation, but did what he wanted to.
Yeah, it's up to the judge. You know, it's a kind of I mean, they're used to the DA not necessarily asking for a lighter sentence or a break. So it's not going to be the first time a judge is going to buy what the defense is selling over the DA's objection. Let's put it that way.
Yes. Very, very interesting. How much longer do you think the Daybell trial will go?
Well, so it's still the prosecution. I don't know what Lori is going to do. So I would think certainly through next week. If not, it's moving quicker than expected. Because Lori is being contained when she tries to get into some extracurricular things, like who Charles was talking about on his phone, who he may have been dating, things like that. But she comports herself pretty quick. Remember, they have that she'll be electrocuted if she misbehaves. So
that's so funny.
I don't know what defense she's putting on. That's really going to dictate how long it goes. I would think the prosecution has about another week.
Her defense has always been so stupid. Like, this isn't a crime. This is a family tragedy. I'm like, because of you. What do you mean? You committed a crime that created a family tragedy.
You know, I got to say, Lauren, this is the week. I believe she's guilty. I believe she and her brother wanted Charles dead. Here's the problem. And we were on Vinnie Paulton the other night, and we were talking about how they're going to prove this conspiracy. Number one, you have a text from from Charles to Adam saying they're planning something. You have the lying together. They were both telling different stories. You have Lori leaving the 47 minutes till she got herself out of that situation. You can infer a conspiracy from all of that. I mean, she's doing 3 life sentences. This is like a bonus round in Arizona.
I know. It's
so
nuts.
I think she's going to be convicted, but it's going to have to do more with who she is and how she's conducting herself than actual hard evidence they have in support of a conspiracy. Because Alex is dead, their daughter Tylee is dead, killed by Lori, their daughter. So all the major witnesses are gone; they're dead, other than Lori. So it's a tough case.
Yep. I want it to be over.
That guys agree. That's good. Somebody agrees with me.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. No. Well, Jarrett, this has been really informative. Thank you so much for breaking down all of the arrest affidavit and answering those questions. Also, your knowledge during the last Reed hearing, I really appreciate. But you're the best. Guys in the chat, you are also the best. Don't forget to subscribe to both of our channels, Pop Crime TV and Primetime Crime Show. We so appreciate you guys.
Everybody's got to subscribe to Primetime Crime. You're killing me with subs. I check out. Come on.
No, Jarrett, do another Koberger podcast. Everybody loves those too. Like those are so good.
I have to. I have to.
I'm really do.
We'll get one out.
You really do. All right. So we should be back next week, guys. So yeah, we will see you next time.
Happening, you're trying to figure out ultimately what is
It's still a mystery as to why it took them